Hello friends, warm greetings from TNVAKADEMI. Today in this session, we are going to discuss about software acquisition capability maturity model. So let's begin our discussion. The SACMM describes developers' suppliers role, while the SA-CMM describes the buyers' acquirers' role in the acquisition process. In the SA-CMM, an individual acquisition begins with the process of defining a system need. Some activities performed by the acquisition organization, such as planning, may predate the establishment of project office. The SACMM includes certain pre-contract award activities, such as preparing the solicitation package, developing the initial set of requirements, and participating in source selection. In the SACMM, an individual acquisition ends when contract for the products is included. The SACMM identifies key processes areas for 4 of its 5 levels of maturity. The key process areas state the goals that must be satisfied to achieve each level of maturity. In other words, progress is made in stages of steps. The levels of maturity and their key process areas thus provide a roadmap for achieving higher levels of maturity. Typically, a portion of the goals or activities of some higher level key process areas are satisfied or performed at a lower level. However, a key process area cannot be achieved until all of its goals have been satisfied. A maturity level is achieved by mastering all of the key process areas at that level. Once the maturity level is achieved, the concept of the model requires that satisfaction of all lower level goal be maintained. The stages of the model are complementary and flow upward. The SACMM is designed to be sufficiently generic for use by any government or industry organization, regardless of size, acquiring products. When applying the SACMM to a particular organization, translations may need to be made. The acquisition organization specializes in acquisition and may be responsible for more than one project. The project team is the entity that has the responsibility for executing the specific acquisition. The project team is supported by other groups in the conduct of the acquisition. In the SACMM, the terms group, team, office, and similar terms may indicate situations where the specific implementation may vary from a single individual assigned part-time to several part-time individuals assigned from other organizations to several individuals dedicated full-time. The organizational structure of the model must be mapped onto the particular organization where the model is being applied. Also, the terminology of the models has been made as generic as possible and must be mapped onto the local situation. Some examples are contracting official, affected groups, and domain. The SACMM should be interpreted in the context of the needs of the organization. Just because something is in the SACMM does not mean it should be applied automatically. Effective and efficient acquisition processes are critical to successful process improvement, but the quality of their output can only be determined in the context of the business needs of the organization. The SACMM applies to the acquisition of all types of embedded and stand-alone software applications, including those where commercial off-the-shelf COTS and non-developmental item and DI software are being acquired either as a part of the system or separately. Naturally, the model may have to be interpreted to fit the specific circumstances. So let us now discuss about the architecture of SACMM. The SACMM defines 5 levels of maturity. Each maturity level except level 1 indicates process capability and contains key process areas. The components of the architecture are described as follows. Goals. Goals are aggregated result achieved by the effective implementation of the key process area. Commitment to perform. Commitment to perform describes the action that the organization must take to establish the process and ensure that it can endure. Commitment to perform. typically involves establishing organizational policies and management sponsorship. Ability to perform. Ability to perform describes the preconditions that must exist in the project or organization to implement the acquisition process competently. Ability to perform typically involves resources, organizational structures, and training. Activities performed. Activities performed describes the roles and procedures necessary to implement a key process area. Activities performed typically involves establishing plans and procedures, performing the work, tracking it, and taking appropriate management actions. Measurement and analysis. Measurement and analysis describes the need to measure the process performance and analyze these measurements. Measurement and analysis typically includes examples of the measurements that could be taken to determine the status of the activities performed. Verifying implementation. Verifying implementation describes the steps to ensure that the activities area perform in compliance with the process that has been established. Verifying implementation typically encompasses reviews by management. So let us now discuss about the maturity levels of SA-CMM. The acquisition organization management must increase its involvement, leadership, and discipline at its attempts to achieve each higher level of maturity. The maturity levels provide a roadmap for the continuous improvement of an organization's acquisition process. They are not intended to serve as a training mechanism. The following describes the 5 maturity levels of the SA-CMM, highlighting the primary process improvements made at each level. The first one is initial. The acquisition process is categorized as ad hoc and occasionally even chaotic. Few processes are defined and success depends on individual effort. For an organization to mature beyond the initial level, it must install basic management controls to instill self-discipline. The second one is repeatable. Basic acquisition project management processes are established to plan all aspects of the acquisition, manage requirements, track project team and supplier team performance, manage the project's cost and schedule baselines, evaluate the products, and successfully transition a product to its support organization. The project team is basically reacting to circumstances of acquisition as they arise. The necessary processes, disciplines is in place to repeat earlier success of projects in similar domains. For an organization to mature beyond the level of self-discipline, it must use well-defined processes as foundation for improvement. The third one is defined. The acquisition organization's acquisition processes is documented and standardized. All projects use an approved, adapted version of the organization's standard acquisition process for acquiring their products. Project and contract management activities are proactive, attempting to anticipate and deal with acquisition circumstances before they arise. Risk management is integrated into all aspects of the project, and the organization provides the training acquired. Risk management is integrated into all aspects of the project, and the organization provides the training required by personnel involved in the acquisition. For an organization to mature beyond the level of defined processes, it must base decision on quantitative measures of its processes and products so that objectivity can be attained and rational decisions made. The fourth one is quantitative. Detailed measures of the acquisition processes, products are collected. The processes and products are quantitatively and quantitatively understood and controlled. The fifth one is optimizing. Continuous process improvements is empowered by quantitative feedback from the process and from piloting innovative ideas and technologies. Ultimately, an organization recognizes that continual improvement and continual change is necessary to survive. We will now discuss about the principles governing the interpretation of the SA-CMM. Generic model. The SA-CMM is a generic model for broad uses. In a specific context, implementation and improvement needs may vary organizational. Improvement roadmap. The activities of the SA-CMM describe the characteristics of an acquisition process that one would normally expect to see at each maturity level. The SA-CMM does not prescribe how an organization is to improve its processes. It describes the attributes of an organization process maturity at 5 levels of maturity. The maturity level prescribe an ordering of how to prioritize process improvement actions. Key process areas. The SA-CMM describes key process areas and activities. It is not exhaustive and additional process areas may be appropriate for an organization. Comprehensiveness. The SA-CMM does not address all the factors that impact acquisition. Examples of excluded topics are manufacturing and human resources. Process management. The quality of a product is largely governed by the quality of the process used to acquire, develop, or maintain it. No one right way. There is not one right way to implement an acquisition process. The SA-CMM is not engraved in stone. Also, except in a few carefully chosen instances, the SA-CMM does not mandate how the acquisition process should implement it or who should perform an action. It describes what characteristics the acquisition process should possess. It describes what characteristics the acquisition process should possess. Technology. The SA-CMM is not technology independent. No specific tools, methods, or technologies are mandated by the SA-CMM. Appropriate tools, methods, and technologies should be made available to support the process. Professional judgment. Professional judgment must be applied when interpreting for a particular organization the activities of the SA-CMM. The SA-CMM should be adapted to fit the organization. The organization should not be restructured to reflect the SA-CMM. The competence principle. The competence of the pupil doing the work is a major factor in project performance and organizational success. Competence includes knowledge of the application, domain, acquisition methods, and quantitative methods, and having interpersonal and problem-solving skills. So we have now come to the conclusion of this session. In case you have any questions regarding what we have discussed today, then please put them in the comment section of the video and we will be really happy answering them. Till we meet next, best wishes from TNVAKADEMI. Thank you.